Great to have you back on the morning show here on the Rise News. I am Adesua Omorwan.
And I'm Rufai Seni.
Entrepreneurs have a pivotal role to play in Africa's unemployment crisis. Today, over a third of the continent's young workforce, those aged between 15 and 35, are unemployed. Not a good image for Africa, you would say. Well, joining us to discuss this and more is Sir Steve Omajafor, Chairman, SCB McCann, and former Chairman, Zenith Bank. Great to have you join us on the show.
Thank you very much.
Good to have you.
Thanks.
Good to have you,
Unemployment rate in Nigeria.
Yes,
just looking at the numbers, what do you make of the situation? Are Nigerian youths really lazy, like someone once described them? Or is it the society, the government not providing enough jobs and the environment for them to be, productive?
The situation is very frightening, I must say. When we left school, when we left university, we all had a choice as to what you want to do with yourself. My first job was with the Federal Ministry of Information. And I spent 3 months at this building. We used to call it 6-story building on Broad Street, very close to the General Hospital, the Lagos State General Hospital. For 3 months, there was no job for me. I got dressed up, got there in the morning, and just sat through doing nothing. So I said, no, certainly not for me. And I went out and in search of a job, and in less than a month, I was employed by Daily Times of Nigeria. And I also was there for 3 years. Again, I didn't get the fulfillment I was looking for. So I said, look, I think at this point in time, I got to sit back and see what I want to do. It's a question of getting employed all the time, and I said, no, I wasn't going to go shifting from here to there. So I moved on again to Linters, because at that point in time, I said advertising, marketing, communication will probably be something that is more into my style, and So I got into Linters, and that was where really my mind was made up what I wanted to do with my life. So I was in Linters, and 4 or 5 years down the line, I got together with 2 colleagues of mine, and then we set up Roosevelt Advertising Limited, and that was in 1978, and I think I was between 28 and 29 years old. In fact, the 3 of us were between 27 and 30, So, of course, it was difficult. You needed finance. No banks were going to ever talk to you anyway.
Way back then?
Yeah, way back then, yes. And how much did we need? We decided that each person should contribute 15,000 naira.
But that was well over $15,000, $20,000.
Yeah, it was a lot of money then. So it was like from family sources that we all sourced our funds, and then the company started. So back to the issue today. I think our educational system seriously need to be revised, or to be properly adjusted to let our children and young kids growing up to be more assertive in terms of what exactly do we want to do in future. Getting children to enroll these days to study history, geography, even some of the sciences is probably not the way to go. We were lucky at our own time. There were quite some good jobs around. We weren't so many. The population hadn't exploded.
Oh, yeah?
To where it is now. And the number of graduates, universities were still limited. You could count on your on your fingertips how many. But today, it's a massive explosion. Virtually every state has its own university, then coupled with the federal universities, then the private universities, and we are just churning out kids from university like no man's business. So where do we go from there?
I'm very happy you said that, and because when you were saying, it was you guys started up a business then in the 70s, things were, a lot of people argue that things were quite easy. Population was about 60 million, now it's like times 3 of that.
Right.
Then, purchasing power parity for the Naira was quite high. Now it's gone very low. The economy was bustling, that was the time Gowon did say the problem is not money but how to spend it.
Absolutely.
But things were bustling. But now the dynamics have changed and it's going to get worse off. And the question is, what do we do? So there are projections that the biggest workforce in the world will soon be the African continent because we're going to have over 300 to 400 million Africans get into the workforce in the next 10, 20 years. Currently, we have a population that is growing so fast and an economy rate that is going so low. So the population is about 3%, economy is about 2%. I mean, as an employer of labor, a lot of people have said entrepreneurship, but it's not easy to get entrepreneurship working in this country. So what will you tell a young person out there that looks at you and say, I want to be like Sir Steve Omajafor? What would you tell them to do?
Wow. Now, to start with, like I talked about looking at our educational system, we need to change the focus altogether. We need to be able to de-emphasize the degrees. Okay, it's a BA, it's a BSc. I want us to look at the growing population and say to them, you would be better off for yourself, for the economy, if we're going into things that you could do with your brains and with your hands. Okay? You want to be a mechanic, you want to be a tailor, you want to be, you want to be able to be producing something. You got to be able to say to yourself, I own a little factory in conjunction with my partners where we can actually produce and sell. Now, it's not going to be easy for you to say to your son today, will you want to be a mechanic? Will you want to be a tailor? Will you want to be a vulcanizer? Will you want to go into farming? But I think the future is in manufacturing. And you don't need all the degrees in the world. If we skew our educational system towards things that you could do in 1 year, 2, 3 years, and pick up some skill to be able to go into the modern day factories and manufacturing systems and what have you, our kids will do better than everybody waiting to earn a degree. I mean, what happens is after the first degree, no jobs, they go for masters. It's not because they really felt like doing it, but rather than sitting down doing nothing. So I'm going to say that the government itself needs to do something more radical about the educational system. And then we need to start imbibing in the younger ones that you cannot remain on the queue looking for jobs endlessly. I'm so happy. These days, fashion designing, music, drama, and whatever is getting our kids and younger ones employed. And it didn't have to do with all the PhDs in this work. It had to do with sitting down to think and say, what am I good at, apart from carrying degrees all over the place?
I'm happy
you
mentioned manufacturing
and
government.
And farming.
And farming, and government being strategic. Because one of the priorities of the Economic and Recovery Good Plan of this government is to drive industrialization with special focus on SMEs. But you have been in business for a number of years
Yes.
now. You're doing it yourself. Would you say that this government has been strategic in this plan of, industrialization? I mean, you just look at the myriad of challenges, the power, the road, the infrastructure. Is there a strategic plan? Do you have any sense that there's a strategic plan to drive industrialization in Nigeria so far?
On paper, we have virtually everything that you can think of in the world.
On paper.
Well, on paper. Oh, yes. I mean, we never tired of seminars, workshops, and, all kinds of group meetings and all that. And then papers are produced. Oh, yeah. You got it on agriculture, you got it on manufacturing, you got it on education, you got it on virtually everything. But implementation becomes the problem. In the government setup itself, unfortunately, I've never worked with government or for government. The government itself doesn't look to me as being strategically focused, because you want to look at who in charge. I mean, you have a labor ministry, you have a ministry for agriculture, you have a ministry for industries and works and all that. Now, you probably want to say to them, yes, we all know that Nigeria will grow better, Nigeria will be much, much of an industrialized place if we pay attention on this, maybe 4 different areas, okay? Now, what is the blueprint taking our children from secondary school to university level or to technical colleges, that when they now come out, they can fit into any of these 4 major areas. They mainly go to school and they pay their way through, they read their way through, but they come out with skills and certificates that do not in any way focus into what you want to do with your life. So you see, I mean, today engineering graduates are into fashion designing, legal, lawyers, and all kinds of things. But even that I don't mind, as long as what you do, number one, helps you to actualize yourself. You are able to earn for you to live your life, and possibly at some time invest. Because at the end of the day, I mean, you talked about, the workforce that we're going to have in Africa. Now, no, but we cannot, for those who are leaving Africa now and wanting to go into Europe, half of them will die on the way, before they get there. And what is pushing them out? It's still a question of not having a strategy in place that tells you that when you finish this is your next step. Okay. And from this step to the next one. So you get yourself prepared to what is ahead of you.
Let's talk about those who remain in the country and decide to create jobs and businesses for themselves, entrepreneurs. Some will argue that, they cannot even survive, not only because of the economic harsh realities they find themselves, but there's even that vacuum of mentorship. Nobody prepares them ahead to say, this business you're going to go into, there are some pitfalls, and this is how you should avoid it. What do you say to people like that? Is that argument even valid?
There is some validity in it. On my way here, in the traffic, a gentleman calls me and said, Sir Steve, for 40 years, you kept a partnership in place, and it is still there. After your retirement, it is still there. I have my 25-year-old son who has just come back from the United States. They want to do business together, and they have a good focus as to what they want to do. But I'm so scared. I mean, that's the guy talking to me, a friend of mine from university. I'm so scared about how they can work and blend together. I don't want a situation where in the 1 year down the line, we're talking about, breaking each other's heads and all that. So will you help me talk to them? And immediately I said, yes. I'll set up a meeting. Let the 3 of them come to me, or I'll go to them, and we can sit down.
So there's lack of mentorship.
Talk. Yes, we need more of that. We need more of that. And people who have made it in terms of the education, in terms of profession and all that, should be prepared. I mean, within the Ministry of Labor, I would have expected that it will have a department, a unit that handles, mentoring or mentorship for our children. A lot of them have ideas, but somebody has to help them to harness it and really position it for it to be something that will germinate, grow, and be successful. We don't want to leave them just beating about the bush. At the end of the day, we earn nothing out of that.
Sir Steve, you've touched a very important part, mentoring. But how about the part of the government? People finally start up businesses. They don't go to Canada. Multiple taxation faces them. Corporate tax of 30%. They spend about 60% of their revenue on generating power to power their business. They have a fast declining skilled workforce. Because if you try to employ somebody for a role today, it's a nightmare. We have all of these factors. What do you tell a young person just starting up? We also have a factor where there's this get-rich-quick mentality. So you're probably getting somebody that wants to work for you, probably at SB McCann, and in the next 2 years wants to drive a Mercedes. How do you tell a young entrepreneur?
It's still a mental and psychological issues that we still have to address. Number one, they want to get rich quick because they've seen in the system that a lot of people didn't have to work that hard to make the money. So if I find the opportunity, why don't I, take it up? That's one. The government itself, I hate talking about government being our savior as far as education is concerned, entrepreneurship. Of course, we talked about it. No light, no water, no road, taxation, So government is interested in just making as much money as they can at the expense of the poor working force, at the expense of those who want to come and invest. So at the end of the day, we are all just trying to extract water from stone because the environment itself doesn't make it happen. So I say government, yes, they got their own problems. I mean, it's all politics, and how much they can make out of the system. For the majority of Nigerians, particularly these younger ones, which for me is the time bomb that we're just allowing to go around. Someday these kids decide we've had enough of it. Oh yeah, I mean, we talk about the spring that happened, the Arab Spring. Someday it's going to be the Nigerian Spring. And if we don't start putting concerted plans and efforts to handle it now, it will be too bad for the country.
We're almost out of time. I have about a minute to go, but I won't let you go without talking about brand image.
Yes.
Nigeria. Some people say we have identity crisis. There's no Nigeria dream. We don't even know what exactly the dream is. As an expert in advertising and branding, would you say that's correct? Do we have an identity crisis in Nigeria? Are we marketing ourselves enough?
We have a country that is given. How we position this country is probably the big problem. Now, to brand yourself, there are certain basic things. Number one, you must agree on who you are. A lot of us don't even know who we are, so we don't start brand. We agree on who we are. We agree on what life around us must be. We agree on those basic things like you must do this, you must conform, you must do your work. You must do all these basic things for you to now have an identity. Yeah, they talk a lot about the identity crisis which we have. For me, it's no issue. If you, himself, myself, can know exactly what we want to do with ourselves, with our lives, and then move it to the larger population, this country will still be what we want it to be. That's a great place to hold it, Sir Stephen Omajafor. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much for coming on the show.
Appreciate you.
And that brings us to the end of the Morning Show today. Many thanks for watching. I am Adesoa Omorwan.
And I'm Rufai Husseini.
Goodbye.